Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Marvel Knights Mindless One Build-A-Figure wave. Here we have Luke Cage Power Man, second figure of the wave that I am reviewing. As you guys would have seen if you watched the Blade review, window packaging is back. Plastic is back. It is recycled plastic. Spoiler alert, it was always recycled plastic, so whatever spin they put on it, whatever. We know that there were many complications. Sales were probably down for a number of reasons because packaging looks ugly, doesn't catch people's eye. Next thing is swaps and all kinds of crazy shit was happening. So, plastic is back. Thank God. And I love that we got the original packaging back to it. It would have probably been a good time for maybe a packaging redesign. But regardless, we got it back. We got this awesome artwork on the side as well. So there you have a very classic Luke Cage Power Man. Here on the figure, we have it. We have an extra set of hands. That is all he comes with. He does come with one of the legs for the Mindless One Build-A-Figure. I don't know exactly how this figure is. So far, the consensus has not been great. But we'll see. I'm going to be happy to have it. I will do a comparison with the MCU Netflix Luke Cage figure. And then I have the Amazon exclusive Defenders box set that I will be opening for the very first time, just so I could pull out that Luke Cage figure to compare it with this one. There was one other Luke Cage figure that was released in the Thunderbolts box set. I do not have that set. I do not have that figure, but I have this one, which is for the most part the same. But looking at the back of the package, along with the window boxes, we do get bios again, which is awesome. So for Luke Cage Power Man, having accidentally gained superhuman strength and bulletproof skin from a science experiment, Luke Cage becomes a hero for hire known as Power Man. And then, of course, the cross-sell, we have all the figures in the wave. So Blade, Luke Cage we looked at next. I'm going to do probably Clea, then we'll see how it all ends up going. But anyway, there we go. Luke Cage logo up at the top. That looks like the Netflix logo, actually. But enough of that. Let's get to it and check out the figure. Here we go. Oh yeah, and before I forget, remember, this wave, along with the Void Build-A-Figure wave, will not show up at big box retail. So no Target, no Walmart, no other stores that sell it. You might find them at GameStop, local comic shops, Amazon, and online retailers. You will not find this at normal retail. Remember that. Keep that in mind. This wave, not at retail. The Void wave, not at retail. So online is your best bet. So make sure. Online. I'll have links in the video description below. Okay, so here's the Luke Cage figure out of the package, and I can understand the people's complaints and frustrations with this figure. He is a basic Legends figure. There's nothing crazy about it. There's nothing necessarily like innovative or anything like that. It's kind of your standard run-of-the-mill Marvel Legends figure. The biggest complaint is going to be in the sleeves. So the shoulder arm cutout allows for movement and things like that, but it's quite large, as they tend to be when it comes with jackets and stuff. I think there has been smaller, but this one's quite large. So then you could see his armpit in there, which doesn't make sense because it's a shirt, right? It's not a vest, and then he wears sleeves, right? That sucks. That's not good. They did the torso with the ball joint waist, which is cool. There's no ab crunch, which, you know, if there's not going to be an ab crunch, then you do the ball joint waist or your diaphragm cut. They went with this because of the open shirt design, but because of that, there's not going to be a lot of movement in the torso. So the ball joint only gets so much, and we'll go over that more in the articulation, but it's pretty lacking. And I would say that's the biggest thing. The other thing I've heard is like the mismatched skin tones. So the torso and his head sculpt. The hand matches his face, matches the head sculpt, the skin tone. That's all good. The torso and the head, it doesn't match. The torso and the hands, they don't match. There's a couple of reasons for that, and I always understand the complaints, and I don't know what the solution is or kind of how this works without being in the manufacturing process. The head sculpt and hands are a softer plastic. They are the PVC. The torso, being a harder plastic, is ABS plastic. I might have that backwards because I don't really know. I'm not in the industry to understand that. But harder plastic, softer plastic. So while you can have every intention of these two being the same color, they tend to not be. We see that with Hulk figures all the time, where the heads and the hands and the arms don't match the torso because the torso is always a harder plastic. That sucks and I'd rather they be correct, they'd be the same. But in general, you're not going to notice. When you have bright lights on it, you're absolutely going to notice. But again, the same thing that goes with the Hulk figures and all those other figures. So that's, you know, what's going on there. But there's the Luke Cage figure kind of overall. He does come with one of the legs to the Mindless One. It looks like it's probably the left leg, which is pretty interesting. We'll throw that off to the side. And then in terms of accessories, we just have open hands for Luke Cage. But now let's go ahead and get in for the closer look at him. Okay, so here's an up-close look at the Luke Cage Power Man head sculpt, and that looks pretty good. It looks like the crown piece and that top hair piece are separate pieces, as you can see some of the skin tone right in through there. Oh, and you can kind of move that around too, so it is a separate piece on there. And it looks pretty good. The digital print came out nice, and again, you could see under bright lights, difference in skin tone color with the hard plastic of the torso and the softer plastic of the head sculpt. There, just, oh man, you know, the way they could have fixed it is, you know, make the hole smaller, sure, but then I don't know what complications you could come up. But if they would have added yellow paint in there, I know they've done that in the past. I'm thinking like the Rogue figure, or there were some figures where they've painted in some of the color of the coat to kind of blend it in, and it ends up looking okay. We get this chain belt here, and it's just done in this plastic color, and you can move it around as needed. Got like these silver wrist pieces, black pants. They are pinless, and then he's just got yellow boots. So not a whole lot going on for the figure at all, but there we have it. I think the head sculpt does look pretty good though. I like the collar of the shirt. It's kind of open. The shirt is open. Without an ab crunch, the torso ends up looking a lot better, sure, but then, you know, we lose it in articulation, which, hey, let's move on to that, but it's not great. Okay, so for Luke Cage's articulation, the head is on a disc hinge, so he can look up a fair amount. The hair kind of hits the back of the collar a little bit there, and I just end up popping the head off, of course. So he can only look up so much. Looking down, he can look down all the way, which is good. Full rotation in that head, not really any pivot going on there. The arm you can get to go on out like so. You get a full rotation in there. You have the upper bicep swivel. We have a double jointed pinless elbow, and that's actually a pretty good looking bend. Usually when we get thick sleeves, it ends up having a very ugly bend at the elbow. But this elbow actually doesn't look too bad, so I like that we get that. So that much bend there. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. Standard horizontal hinge on the fists and the open hands that he comes with. The fists seem to be a little bit further too far into the wrist, so you can't really hinge it inward because it's just too far in, or the wrist, you know, it just extends out a little bit too much. So just a heads up on that. You get waist swivel at the ball joint. Hip, but at the waist, but again, because no torso, no ab articulation, no ab crunch, no diaphragm cut, we got that ball joint waist. So he's only going to tilt to his left that much. He's only going to tilt to his right that much. That's hardly anything. Back, hardly anything at all. Forward, not anything at all. Like, it's bad. Just, there could have been so much more range of motion in there with a ball joint, but it's just severely lacking on Luke Cage, and I think that's what people are probably having the biggest problem with, and rightfully so. I mean, from an aesthetic standpoint, the figure looks really good, but if he can't move it around and get into like dynamic poses and stuff, you know, for people that do photography, or for people that, you know, put them into poses and into their display like that, it's definitely going to be tough. Legs go out that far apart. You can't kick forward that far. The leg goes back a little bit. You got an upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed pinless knee gives you that much bend there at the knee. Oh, here's another one I forgot. He does not have a boot swivel. The boot and the leg are separate pieces. Why there is no swivel, I do not know. Could that have been a manufacturer error or something like that? Don't know, but there is no boot swivel. Why that is, I don't know. I know somebody has taken it apart and there's like a square peg in there instead of round peg, that which would allow for a swivel. So no swivel. That also does suck. Foot hinges down all the way though. Hey, get a little bit of hinge up. That's cool. Ankle pivot, standard, but you know, still all good. And then peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So yeah, it's just a lack of articulation on this guy, but you know, from a purely aesthetic standpoint, I still think the figure looks really good. Okay, and so from an aesthetic standpoint, so much better than this previous Defenders box set version of Luke Cage that was on the Hyperion body, which I absolutely hate. That's my worst, like the body mold that I hate the absolute most. So another case in point here, this yellow does not match the yellow of the arms, and that's because, again, hard plastic, softer plastic. So there we have that there. I don't think head swaps between these two figures would be a good idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway for you guys. I absolutely hate head swaps, but I know people are gonna ask, they're gonna question, no head swap question mark or head swap question mark. And damn, is this even possible? Not really. The head's gonna be way too large anyway, and doesn't easily pop on there. If you warm it up, maybe you can get it on there. But again, the head's gonna be really large. If you try to do something like this, that's not going to work because that head just looks teeny tiny on that body, so that obviously does not work either. So the two comic Luke Cage figures that I have, again, there's by Hasbro, there are 3 total, unless I'm missing any somewhere that I'm not aware of. But I think it's just the Defenders box set, the Thunderbolts box set, and then now we have this Luke Cage Power Man there. But man, it's just, this thing is kind of trash compared to this new one. I mean, yes, the articulation stuff on the new one isn't great, but I mean, look how I'm having to get this stupid Hyperion body mold figure to like stand, and he's been in the box this entire time, but he just looks weird. I don't know. This is so much better. So much better. Okay, so for another comparison, we have the MCU Netflix Luke Cage figure. And these two, the comic stands a little bit taller. The skin tones definitely are not going to be a match between the two. But I know people are going to wonder, they're going to ask, they're going to want to see it. Head swaps. Can these heads swap around? Maybe. Yes. That head ends up looking a little bit small. You know, if you want to fix the skin tones between the two and do some paint work, you probably could. And then this one, you know, if you wanted more kind of casual Luke Cage Power Man, I guess, that head does pop on there. Again, you'd have to rework the skin tones there. But you could always do this if that's what you wanted to do. Oh gosh, we needed a better Iron Fist, don't we? So here we have, this is the box set version. No Deep V Iron Fist figure for us. Was it Hasbro? Toy Biz did one, green and red, I believe. Or was it Hasbro? I think it was Toy Biz. Pretty sure it was Toy Biz. I would like to see Hasbro take a crack at it, because this Iron Fist ain't it. If you look at the legs, those legs are whack. And this, again, was sitting in the box the entire time. Now, warping tends to happen, sure. And yes, it's been years, but these legs suck. The Pizza Spider-Man mold, like, it's just really, really, really bad. So I'd love to get a new classic Iron Fist to match with the Power Man Heroes for Hire. So yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, so in terms of dynamic poses, again, you know, Luke Cage unfortunately is not able to get into a whole lot just because of the lack in that torso. That ball joint just isn't all that effective. Unfortunately, it's just really not. But you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Luke Cage figure? I think he is just okay. From an aesthetic standpoint, though, really, really nice. But from, you know, dynamic posing, figure photography, it's not going to be great. And I forgot to do this, but here is a side-by-side comparison with Blade. And holy crap, Power Man Luke Cage towers over Blade quite a bit. Like, I didn't see that coming. I was a bit surprised by that. So the Luke Cage figure, he's a good-sized figure. But you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that join button to become a channel member and be a part of the MCU Collective. If you're looking to show support for the channel, I greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for watching.